Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name's Carl King and this is the second of a particular set of videos. I did this last year and I said I was going to try and do one of these each year around this time, and this is my top 10 list of games in my collection that I've actually played. So I've still got some on the shelf of shame that I haven't played, some which are still there from last year, some new Kickstarters and a couple of other games that I've managed to sort of get in trade, that sort of thing, and others that I've bought. But this is a list, as I say, of games where either solo or as a group I've got these to the table at some point, and for me they are my top 10 games that I own. So first off, at number 10, we've got Lost Ruins of Arnak by Czech Games Edition, or CGE as they're commonly known. This is a sort of Indiana Jones style adventure board game where you're playing adventurers that are going out into sort of jungle settings, and you're sending out your adventurer doing different things on the board, whether that be sort of digging and excavating at temple sites, or going up a track on the side of the main board where you're sort of using a spyglass and a book to sort of gain rewards, and you place your meeples out onto the board and you do various actions that you can. So as you can see here, this is the back of the box of Lost Ruins of Arnak, and we've got the board here. So this is where you go out onto the board and you're doing sort of excavations and things, and you can go out to explore these sites and sort of get those cards out onto the board, and they will stay on there. But when you go out there at the first attempt, you will also have a monster to fight. Your meeple stays there until the end of the turn, or until you potentially do an action, and you can then defeat the monster if you've got certain bits of sort of resources. It'll tell you on the card what you need to pay to defeat the monster, and then you'll get benefits and rewards from doing that, both during the game and sort of points at the end of the game. And then this is the other track, and this track here, there are various ones of these now because there have been some expansions, so there's different sort of temples that you can go up and explore, and you will pick up again different bits of resources and rewards, extra helpers. You can buy cards and things through the game to help in your quest, and once you get up this board and up this track, the further you get up there with your book and your spyglass, that will score you points at the end of the game. So if you're a fan of things like Indiana Jones and stuff like that, those sorts of movies, The Mummy, all those sorts of things, this could be the game for you. We like playing this. It's a cracking little game, and that's number 10, which is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Last year that was 9, so it's dropped one place on my list. So coming in at number 9 is this one, Raiders of the North Sea. So this is by Garphill, and this is again a game that has dropped a couple of places. So as I say, this is number 9. Last year was at 7. So this is a Viking themed game. You can't really see too much here. I'm not going to open all of these and show you the boards and all the bits and pieces. If you like the look of these or whatever, or if you played these, you're going to know what these are. But failing that, you can check them out either on the websites of the games companies who've produced these, or probably for a more fuller thing and lots more files and pictures and things, you can go on to Board Game Geek and things like that. I've done some videos on some of these games as well, sort of some unboxings and things, so you can check those out also on this YouTube channel. But Raiders of the North Sea is another game that we like getting to the table at least once a year. That's the trouble with having a some friends and a group of people where we've all got different games. Trying to fit all those games in throughout the year is getting more and more difficult because of time and trying to fit them in, and playing just sort of like once a week we get together. So yeah, it's getting more and more difficult to make sure that you can sort of play these. So what I tend to do now is I have a look at games that I'm going to purchase, and I'm more likely to buy games now if they have a solo mode. So I sit here in my games room on my table, and I'll play these as a solo first, just to get the sort of nuances of the game, see how it plays, and I'll do that primarily to also try and learn the rules as best as I can, and then we can get it to the table as a group, hopefully. But yeah, Raiders of the North Sea, a Viking based dudes on a map, placing again your meeples down and taking actions. And the beauty of this game is you place one down and do an action, and then you remove one from the board and you do another action. So it's quite a unique sort of system in that respect, that there's not many games, if any, where you do that each time you have a turn. So you sort of, as I say, you place a meeple down on a particular area, you'll do the action associated with where you've gone, and then you have to take a meeple from somewhere that somebody has placed previously, or you may have placed it previously, and it's come round and you can take that meeple back. So there's different coloured meeples in the game. You don't necessarily have your own to start with, but you can do various actions. You build up a ship's crew, you go out on raids, and then the game ends once you've taken so many of the different areas and sort of raided so many of the different areas on the board on different levels. So, and increasingly you need more and more things to be able to do those raids, but you also get better benefits, and then at the end of the game you tot up the points, and the person with the most points is the winner. So that's Raiders of the North Sea by Garphill. So coming in this year at number 8, we've got Dwellings of Eldervale. So this is a very, very good game. Again, this has dropped. This is now 8. Last year it was at number 3. I think we may have played this last year, but I'm not sure. I think we may have played it once. This is a fantasy setting game where you are again going out onto a board which is being built up from tiles, and you add that to the board. There are restrictions of where you can place those tiles, and then when you place those tiles, each one of those tiles has got a space where you can put a meeple down, and you can put a sort of roof onto that meeple. You've only got so many of these, but they will go out onto the board and they will permanently stay onto that particular tile, and that's where and how you get your dwellings in Eldervale. So you've got lots of different actions that you can do. This is the sort of board as it's sort of starting to build up. So these tiles come out of a stack blind, and you will go to a certain area of one of the 5 tiles that are always in the game, and then all of the others are based on the different coloured sort of realms that you can have, and then you will also score points by going up certain tracks of those realms based on the colours of those tiles and what you can do and what you have done. You can have resources, you can get some spell cards and some magic cards, you can fight monsters. This is the sort of blinged up deluxe version, which has got the sound bases, as you can see here, but all of these monsters come out depending on when there is an interaction on the map between a fight. You can fight other people, and then you get rewards for winning those battles. You also get rewards if and when you lose the battle sometimes, and your meeples go off into a sort of dead area, but at the end of your turn at some point you can recall your meeples, and then you can do actions on the cards and on your player board by placing those meeples there and then doing those actions on those cards and areas on your player board and the cards that you've managed to get throughout the other rounds, and then those will give you added benefits. That you might be able to bring out more of your meeples, because you've got a dragon, you've got a wizard, you've got a fighter, and then you've got some sort of basic dudes, and they will all do certain things, and they will also be progressively better at battles. You can roll a maximum, I think, of 6 dice in a battle, but you can, if you've got only sort of enough dudes to throw 3 dice and you want to roll more, you can spend the swords, as the resources of the sword, you can spend those, and each one of those will give you an extra dice to roll. And then when you're doing the combat, you roll off against everybody else who's in the combat, including any monsters, and then you compare the scores on your die. So if you've rolled a 6 and nobody else has, you automatically win. If you've rolled a 6 and somebody else has, then you go down to how many 5s, how many 4s, how many 3s, and so on. If you roll 3 6s and somebody else only rolls 2, again, you're going to win, because your 6 will be higher than their 3rd place dice. This is a cracking game, and once it's sort of had a couple of turns, you really sort of get into that sort of thing where you're trying to sort of battle people for position on the board and trying to place your dwellings, because the game ends when a certain amount of your dwellings have been built, and then you'll tot up the scores, and again the one with the most points will be declared the winner. So that's Dwellings of Eldervale, and that's by Breaking Games, and we've had that about a couple of years now and played it quite a few times. And as I say, that is number 8. Coming in at number 7 this year is a game that I've only recently bought, and this is again a collector's edition, and this is Skyrise from Roxley. So you may know Roxley. Roxley are the people who bought things like Brass Lancashire, Brass Birmingham, and 1 or 2 other games, but this is a very nice looking game once you get it out on the table, as you can see here. This is the, as I say, the sort of collector's edition, so it's got the 3D islands and the nice buildings and the blinged up sort of resources in there with the recessed player boards, and it's basically an auction bidding game. So you've got all of these buildings, and they've got numbers on one end, and then you place those down and you do an auction bidding system where everybody can outbid by placing their buildings out, and they are small, medium and large buildings. The smaller buildings obviously have got the lower numbers, then you've got some medium-sized buildings, and then your taller buildings will have your larger numbers. There's 2 eras to play, so after the first era is finished, you do a round of scoring. You start era 2, and then once everybody has finished placing all of their buildings, that ends the game. And then again you do some totting up and some scoring based on where your buildings are, how many of buildings are in certain coloured areas, the tokens that you've collected throughout the game go onto your player board. You'll score points for those, and again you end up with a winner based on how many victory points the person with the highest is the winner. So obviously there is a bit of a theme going on there with the sort of victory point things, but then there are a lot of games out in the marketplace these days where it is just a case of you score victory points and the most victory points wins. So coming in at number 6 is the second CGE game in my list this year, and that is SETI. Now, up until I got this, which I was given a copy of this directly from CGE to do some reviews on, and there is a review video on this and also some written reviews. Until I got this and played this, my favourite game from CGE was Lost Ruins of Arnak, but this for me is the better game. Not by much, but it is. I've also played Kutna-Hora, that's also very good, and that was close to making the list as well. But this just for me is an all-round superb game. Again, excellently produced, very good components, very well thought out. You've got the spinning centre board here where this will spin round. This is the sort of universe, and your central portions of this will spin during the turns. So your probes and things that you put out here, that you're eventually trying to get to these planets and their moons, you may be hoping to sort of get to a particular planet or moon, and somebody else will rotate this board and your probe will end up being in an area where it can't move to the planet that you want. You've got cards and resources to utilize. Once you get a certain amount of tokens placed on a area at the top of the board, you will reveal one of 2 alien races in the game. I think they're trying to bring out some more alien races as an expansion for this, and it will certainly benefit from that. But for, you know, quite a few plays, those alien races are going to be more than enough to help you and be enough for you to play several games, because you'll get different ones out every time. So you can play the first game with the 2 that they recommend you to play, and then you can mix and match or go through any of the 5 that I believe you get in with the initial game. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this game. There's not a huge amount of player interaction, other than sometimes, as I say, you can sort of mess plans up by spinning the center portions of the board, but that's not too bad really. But yeah, this we played this a few weeks ago and we all had a very good time playing it, and yeah, that is SETI by CGE. So that was number 6. So coming in at number 5 is another new entry to this list from last year, and that is from Dice Tower Essentials, and that is this, the very impressive Foundations of Rome. So this board box is massive, and if you want to have a better look at what is in here, I have done a video of this, a sort of unboxing. But as you can see from the side here, what we've got on this is a huge centre board here, and what you are doing as an architect, you're trying to build Rome. So everybody has a player tray with the same set of buildings. You're buying plots of land out on the game board, which, depending on how many players, will have all of these squares available, and the less players, you will sort of just ignore some of these outer columns and rows, and you will be buying these plots of land from cards, and as you buy them, all of the cards will slide down and you'll bring a new one out, so they'll get progressively cheaper, hopefully. And then you have so many sort of turns stroke eras to buy these, and then at the end of the game your board is going to be really, really nice on the tabletop, because you've got all these different buildings where you've placed them out there, and your fellow sort of gamers have placed theirs out there, and they've all got different coloured tiles on, so you know whose buildings are who, and depending on what you've played out there, you will score points for the placement of those buildings. You can also buy the sort of wonders, so you can buy things like the Colosseum and other bits and pieces if you want to play with those out on the from the expansions. There is a solo mode in there that's very good, that I sort of actually bought the solo mode as a separate thing, but that's very good to play, and just gives you those little nuances of how the game mechanics will play. But as a 4-player game, we've played this about 3 or 4 times as a 4-player game, and we thoroughly enjoy playing that, and we need to get that to the table more next, or should I say this year, 2025. So that was number 5. In at number 4, which wasn't in at all last year, and it wasn't because it's not a good game, because this is one of my favourite games of all time, and this is the second Viking themed game in the list this year, and that is Blood Rage. So it was very close to making it last year, and I really probably should have put it in, but it didn't. But yeah, Blood Rage from Cool Mini or Not. You can see a board here, so you've got areas of control that you will gain by placing out your miniatures, which you get in the game here, and you also have some monsters and you place those out onto the board, and you're trying to take area control of different parts of the board, including the central part, which is Yggdrasil, but you're trying to just gain control of those. And when you do that and you do combats and things, some of your warriors may end up in Valhalla, and then at the end of the turns stroke round, you will draw those back, and you'll have those available again. But you can also get cards which will score you points for people who have died and gone into Valhalla. As I say, you'll get all of your figures back at different times of the game. You can also sort of purchase and get control of the monsters that come in here as well, and they will help you as well, because some of those monsters are very tricky to defeat. You've got a sea monster that will patrol all of the waters and sort of mess up your opponent's fleets, because you do have some ships in this as well. But primarily you're going to be trying to take control of these land areas, and then, as I say, you'll score points, and you will then again work out at the end who's got the most points, and then the one with the most points again is obviously going to be the winner. So this is one of the trilogy of games by Eric M. Lang, and I think that this is probably his best one of the three. You've got Rising Sun and Ankh, I believe, or something similar to Ankh, but this is the one that I think is the better of the three. And yeah, this is a game that won't ever leave my gaming collection. So, game on the list, number 3, again, is a game that has come down on the list, but only slightly. This came down from number 2 last year, and that is Barbarians: The Invasion from Tabula Games. Now, I will say exactly what I said to people in this video last year. This is a very underrated and not very seldom seen game that anybody seems to sort of have or play or say anything about. If you get a chance to play this, this is a truly exceptional game, and as you can see, the Viking theme here again. So this is the 3rd one on the list after Blood Rage and Raiders of the North Sea. But this has an excellent system, including a volcano system that, again, similar to SETI, will turn depending on certain actions that are played by you or your opponents in the game. Again, this is the miniature version. You can get a meeples version of this. You go out raiding onto different islands, which is on a separate map. You have your own player board where you will spend resources to buy different warriors, and those warriors will also be able to go out into these areas, and depending on where they go and how far and what islands they go to, they'll have to perform and take on a certain amount of battles. If you win a certain amount of those battles, you're going to get rewards for that, but you will also again score points. You can move up on various tracks. There's different events that will happen at the end of each turn, and so you've got sort of 6/7 turns in the game, and at the end of each turn you will have an event to deal with, and if you can meet the requirements of those events, you're going to get some rewards. If not, you're potentially going to have a little bit of a penalty. Not too bad, but you will be able to mitigate those in a lot of instances by various resources and also different conditions to be met. You might have to lose the odd warrior here and there, but it will tell you on the card what you're going to do. But yeah, again, this is a game that we don't as a group get to the table enough. When we do, it takes us a go or two to get back into the swing of this, because the mechanics in this again are mechanics that not really found in many games that we've played. So, and that's what makes it so much fun and so unique to play. But again, it's just getting the time to play all of these games enough. And again, this does have a solo mode in it, so this is again something that from time to time I will sort of break out and play here in the games room, just because I haven't played it in a while. So it's one of those where you think, yeah, about time we got it back onto the table, and hopefully that won't be too long off into the near future. So we're down to the last 2 games, and again this is a new entry onto the list, and this is from Hegemonic Projects, and this is Hegemony. So this is a bit of a strange game because this is about your sort of 4 main classes and political sort of classes and things, sort of the world over. So you've got your working class, your middle class, your capitalist class, and the state, or your politicians, and you all take on the role, 1 to 4 player, you take on the role of one of those particular classes, and you're trying to make your particular class be the best, whether that is the capitalist class by opening up loads of companies and producing lots of goods and selling them to the state and getting lots of money, because that's the way you score points for the capitalists. You score points by getting money, and the amount of money that you have at the end of each turn will score you a set number of points. You've all got your individual player boards, which all have their own asymmetric powers, stroke abilities and rewards on them. So like the working class, the more workers that you get into work will score you more and more resources, and then obviously you can use those to feed your people. But this again is a game where we've only played once, but we had such a cracking time with this that we have said that we need to sort of set some days aside here and there this year to play this, because it's not something that you can play in just sort of like 2 hours. So on a club night, this isn't really a game that you could play. But again, this has an excellent solo mode where you can play as the state, and you can play against 1, 2 or all 3 of the other classes if you want. It's an excellent AI system, card based, and you just do what it says on the card. It has a list of things that you can do, and then you just follow that list and you do the first thing on that card that the card says you need to do this turn. And that could be something that will help the other players, or it could be something that completely sort of screw up their plans. You can also use those AIs if you're playing with a couple of people. You can use one of the AIs as well as a third player. So it's a very well thought out system. They've got a new one coming out this year called World Order, but this has been raved about by lots of people this year, has got a huge amount of sort of coverage and sort of press, and rightly so in my opinion, because this for me was the game of last year that we played. So I got Foundations of Rome last year, I've got various other games in my collection last year, SETI, but for me this is the game of 2024, and we're going to play this again in a few weeks time. We've set a Saturday aside, and we're going to get this to the table again, and I'm sure we'll have another fantastic playthrough of this. We're hoping that we're going to play the same roles as we did before, just to have that sort of continuity, but obviously you can swap and change. So we've gone from 10 to 2. Now last year my game number 1 was a game that I said to you I've only played solo, and that's still the case. Even though we've tried to get it to the table, or I've thought about getting it to the table, again it's a game where you can't really play it in just a couple of hours if you've got 4 people. It is quite involved, and there is a lot going on, and that game is another mammoth of a game, and that is Anachrony, and this is from Mindclash. Now in last year's list I also had Perseverance, which is another one of Mindclash's games. This year unfortunately for me it's dropped off the list. Now that's not anything to say that it's not a good game, but this year they got the second half, they got episodes 3 and 4 of Perseverance coming out, and I'm pretty certain that when that comes out that's going to elevate it back into next year's list, and I'm hoping that that will come out and be with me sometime this year. They're in the last throes of sorting out the last bits of that before it goes to full production, and then that should be coming hopefully to backers this year. But for me, this Anachrony is still my #1 game, and is, of all the games that I own, if I only had to keep one, I'd keep this. So as I say, again, we've got that sort of thing where you need to sort of play this to get the full benefit. I was hoping to show you the board and things, but the box doesn't really show you anything. But as you can see here, I know I said I wasn't going to open many boxes, but you know, this is a mammoth game with lots and lots of figures in here in their exosuits. You've got all of these rule books, including some of the old ones, because this is a updated version. They did a second Kickstarter to update this and brought some extra bits and pieces out, and again sort of bling some of the components. They've updated and made a new solo bot, and again, this is one of the best solo experiences I've had, where you've got a board and you roll the dice, and the solo will move around the board and go to various spots on the board and block you off from playing those particular actions. But this is another game where, if you've not tried it, have a look at it. You can, I believe you can play this online as well, but physically this is a table hog, and it takes quite some time to play, even playing it as solo, which is how I've, as I said, the only way I've played it so far. So there you go. That is my top 10 list for 2025. So we'll just run through that again before we leave you. So that is at number 10, Lost Ruins of Arnak. 9, Raiders of the North Sea. 8, Dwellings of Eldervale. 7, Skyrise. 6, Seti. 5, Foundations of Rome. 4, Blood Rage. 3, Barbarians the Invasion. Number 2, Hegemony. And still at number 1 we have Anachrony from Mindclash. So what do you think to the list? Have you played any of these? Do any of these sort of tickle your fancy and think, yeah, I want to have a game of that? Check them out, as I say, on BGG. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know your own #1 game, and yeah, stick your comments down. And I've got a contest going on at the minute, where in the next few weeks I'm going to pick somebody from the comments of my videos that I've done this year. So there's one for Skyrise, and there's a couple of others up there, and then obviously there'll be this one. But any of the ones so far from 2025, anybody who puts a comment down, I'm going to pick one of the subscribers. You need to be a subscriber to the channel, and then I will contact you, and you're going to win one of the games in my collection. It obviously won't be one of these, because these won't be leaving my collection, but I will find a game from my collection that I am willing to part with, and I will give you one of those. So as I say, let me know your thoughts, let me know your #1 game. Put your top 10 list in the comments if you want to. Let me know if you've got any of these, whether you've played them, liked them, didn't like them, got rid of them, or if you've got them and you haven't played them yet. As I say, there's still a few in my collection that I need to get played, but time is running out again for some of these games to be played, and we need to try and get them in so that they have a chance of getting into the list in 2026, God willing, if we're all here. And until then, and until next time, it's bye for now.